You're on.
Hello everybody, this is just a quick cartooning tutorial, basically about starting from scratch with pencils, blocking in the idea, and specifically working from a concept or a script. I'm the artist on thievesofeden.com, and you can check us out there. And the Reality Hole is actually a spin-off of thievesofeden.com. This was actually the first cover for the spin-off, and they're called campaigns. Instead of issues, it's campaign 1 to free Congress from forced prostitution. And it's social commentary, political commentary, done in a very just humorous and lighthearted style. Not really out there to mess with anyone, just to, you know, express ourselves in our general disappointment with the powers that be. And this one is campaign number 3, which is actually titled The News Recycle. And the concept is that some things should not be recycled. Why? Because they stink. Pretty basic and straightforward. I don't know if it's any good, but I like it and I think it's funny. So we have done our prelims, which are sort of off-shot. And what I'm going to do right now is just, for part 1, just block in all of the characters and details. So, or not details, but essentials. So we have 3 characters that are going to come in here doing 3 different representations of sort of a triad of you know, recycled news and regurgitated news. So we're going to start, I'm going to block in my first figure here, and I start in with very gestural, almost figure study-ish types of, if that's even a word, figure study-ish. But just the gesture drawings of getting the general shape and very rough, fluid shadow of what the character is going to, where he's going to be and what he's going to be doing in relation to the other ones. And again, just very loose gestural lines just to get the energy of the figure. Start to tell the story about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and just to start laying in that good anatomy, or you know, the best anatomy that I'm capable of. Just keep it very loose, very fluid. Try not to overwhelm yourself with lines. And again, these are just, let your mind just sort of pour over the page. And stay loose. Don't think about details right now. Don't think about eyeballs and nostrils and things, or clothes and ties. Just really, really broad shapes. And letting your mind and your imagination just create it as it goes. And I'm hoping that at least some of that made sense. But again, like in a figure study, when you're just doing gestures, you know, gesture drawings, you know, getting the energy of someone, it's just sort of a classic pose. That's essentially what you know how you would start a figure drawing. It's essentially the same thing, and that's it. What I like to do then is make provisions for any more text, any more dialogue. So, and I do put this in digitally. This is a combination of hand-done lettering and digital lettering and inking. I tend to combine the two for production purposes. I like to keep my lines organic, but I like them digitally clean. And what we're going to do here is just sort of that classic hear no evil, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And again, we just sort of we have that recycling triangle of news in, news out, news in, news out, and of course, news being in quotations. And from this point, before I start to get crazy with the detail, costumes, fleshing out characters, now is a really, really good time to organize this into your basic shapes. I do this because it just helps me stay focused, especially if I have to put it down and come back to it if I come back to this, there's a process of trying to figure out what these lines mean. So then I go in and just do a far more recognizable drawing of, you know, the frames and the marquettes. Here's the rib cage, the pelvic mass. You know, I have the quadricep, the leg, the knee, and that's just the classic comic book piping and blocking, basic shapes, which are so very, very useful. I mean, they really are. A lot of people kind of overlook that step. I did for years, and I paid a price. But we're just getting everything in, and this helps us flesh out our positive and negative space. It helps us establish that overall design. We're going with a pyramidal, if that's a word, design, and it helps reinforce our anatomy and the posture of the characters, their you know, their movements, their personality. Like this one is sort of the arched back and very proper, and this one is just sort of gregarious and enjoying themselves, and this one is going to be vomiting, hunched over. And you can see again, we're just doing these large masses and getting everything blocked in. So critical, and the temptation so many times is to get these blocked in and then just start drawing them. You know, okay, I'm going to put a tie on them here, but do it, my advice anyway, I humbly suggest you just do it in phases and keep your mind organized on one process at a time. So again, rib cage, this is the spine, pelvic region, here's one leg, and over here is another leg, and this is, you know, a cross-legged posture. Here's a hand. And then I start to move in with blocking in the details. Not drawing the details, but blocking them in. I do it very simplistically, if not even childishly, and I just do these graduated happy faces. You know? Really, that's all I do. And it's enough for me to know that what's going on there. And then here, you know, you have the lateral line. There's just an ear, there's an eye, a little nose, and this is going to be a female. And she's going to have a large piece of paper in front of her face. So I'll put that in. That's part of her character, part of her design. And then this gentleman here, again, just really, really basic, simple shapes. Because if you're anything like me, and God help you if you are, once my brain clicks over into detail, I lose the overall feel for everything. And that's when my anatomy starts to suffer, and that's when the design overall flow starts to suffer. So just think very broad, and very large, and do your best to stay organized. And it doesn't look like much now, but as you become more facile with the process, the information contained in this very rough sketch is easy to understate. Okay, so that's it for part one, and I know it looks like a mess, but in part two you'll see this really, really start to come together. Until in part three, when we finish it, and it's going to be beautiful, in my opinion, and pretty funny. Thanks for watching, and come check us out at thievesofeden.com.